This is why you should always inspect your hotel room before staying. In 2019, Victoria and her colleague Rebecca were out of town on a business trip. After they worked, they returned to their hotel rooms expecting to rest from their long day. But then something unexpected happened. When they got to their room, which were side by side from each other, Victoria used her hotel key to open the door to her room. As soon as she did this, she saw someone in the bathroom. Victoria said, "Hello." There was no response. Victoria's first thought was that this was probably the cleaning lady. But something was really off. She saw this lady with her personal bag and some of her clothes in her hand. Immediately, she turned to her friend Rebecca, who was standing outside of Victoria's room, and said, "There's a woman in my room." Then Victoria proceeded and asked the woman, "Hey, what are you doing with my stuff?" Now, Victoria would state that she can't remember everything her and this lady said, but this lady kept mumbling something about her key still worked. This woman in the bathroom looked very upset that she was caught in the act. Immediately, this woman dropped Victoria's bag and fumbled around with her purse and this white plastic bag that she had. At the same time this was all going on, Rebecca was still outside watching all of this unfold. This woman in a panic started walking towards the door, and Victoria said, "What's in that bag?" thinking it's probably her stuff, and the woman said, No, it's just my things. It's just my things. Here, I'll show you." So she did. Victoria looked and she didn't see anything that belonged to her, and as Victoria was still in shock that this was even happening, she didn't really think about it and just let the woman go. After the woman left, Victoria quickly went to her room and it was ransacked. She quickly looked around to see if anything had been taken. It seemed like everything was still there. All of her electronics were still there. She went to the bathroom and she did see that all her clothes were shoved into her bag, like as if it was pulled out and thrown back inside along with her passport. While she was still in the bathroom, she looked on the counter and saw that this woman had gotten into her medication. Victoria at this point gets really upset that this even happened. She wanted her medication back, so her and Rebecca ran out of her room to see if they could find this woman. She looked all over the hotel, but couldn't find this woman anywhere. Victoria came to the realization that she was never going to find this woman. So her and Rebecca immediately went to the hotel lobby to tell them what happened and to call the police. After calling, her and Rebecca went back up to Victoria's room to wait for the police to arrive. Victoria was mostly freaking out at this point because this woman had ran off with her medication that she really needed. When police arrived, the officer took both of their statements and looked around the room. While Victoria was in the bathroom, she noticed that there were bits of drywall in the sink, and she pointed that out to the officer, but none of them could really tell where it came from. They looked at the door and windows to see if this woman pried her way in somehow, but there was nothing to really show that she did. In the end, they all kind of just went with the idea that she had a spare key, and it ended up working. Even though the hotel front desk was adamant that there was no way that this could be possible. The officer that came brought 2 more officers as backup because he thought that the woman might still be in the area. After their statements were taken, there was nothing they really could do, so they ended up leaving. Victoria sat down in her hotel room, called different people to let them know what was happening, and on top of that, for herself, trying to make sense of what even happened. While she was on the phone, she was standing in the bathroom looking at the drywall that was in the sink and the mirror that was right above it, and then it hit her. She hung up the phone immediately, got Rebecca to help her pull off the mirror that was on the wall, and they took the mirror down, and to their surprise, there was a hole there just big enough for someone to squeeze through. She asked Rebecca and another coworker whose name was Brian if she should call the police again to let them know what they found. Brian, standing there, said, "Hey, there's still 2 cop cars in the parking lot." Victoria didn't waste any time. She went down and told them what happened, and one of the female officers rolled her eyes in disbelief, but another officer said, "Hey, you know what? I'll come check it out." The officer went back up to the room, and to his surprise, there was a hole in the wall. He looked in the hole and he found a pillow, blankets, cigarettes, clothes, toothbrushes, and other stuff. This woman had been living in the wall behind this mirror the whole time. Now, I know most people will be like, hey, how's that even possible with such a thin wall? Just to tell you that this was not really a thin wall you would see in a regular home. This crawl space was about 2 feet wide that was in between these two rooms of the hotel. Victoria and her co-workers packed their stuff and left. Now, Victoria would state that she had stayed at this hotel before and would smell cigarette smoke, but she didn't really think much of it. But now she knows that there was someone living in the crawl space between the two rooms. Come to find out later that the holes in the walls were from renovations that the hotel did. And there were holes in parts of the hotel, and what they did was just cover them up with mirrors. That does it for today's terrifyingly true story. Hit that thumbs up. Peace, I love you, and as always, God bless.